Next slide. This seminar is going to be run in 3 sessions. In the first session, we will hear opening statements from the Federal Ministry of Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, BMU, as the funders of the IKI program. We will also hear an opening statement from Zukunft Umweltgesellschaft, ZUG, as the managers of the IKI program. I would now like to welcome Philip Behrens, Head of the International Climate Initiative Unit at the BMU, for his opening statement. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Hello, everyone. Dear participants, I am very happy to welcome all of you on behalf of the BMU to our online seminar. As you all know, the IKI Medium Grants is a new funding program of the IKI that we introduced together with the IKI Small Grants program. We had only one call so far, and the idea of the small scale programs was to, inter alia, close a gap with the IKI portfolio. With those programs, we want to reach out for smaller partners, get a broader variety of projects, and we want to be able to test out some new approaches. And with the IKI Medium Grants especially, we want to specifically promote German civil society organizations and their networking with the international climate protection and biodiversity community. In the first call, a total of 204 outlines were submitted, from which we have now selected 11 outlines. With these projects, we will be able to promote outstanding activities, for example, electric cargo bikes in Ghana or green youth labs in Vietnam. The second call for the IKI Medium Grants started on February 25th with a publication of the funding information on the IKI website. In this second round, we are looking for outlines focusing on resilience of local populations in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change adaptation, as well as on strengthening participatory processes for ambitious climate action. The current call will be open until 24th of May. The aim of this seminar today is to enable you, our implementing partners, to improve the quality of the outlines. We want to reach that as many outlines as possible fulfill our formal requirements and are in line with the main ideas of the funding informations. And of course, we want to offer you the opportunity to ask questions. Today, I think we are expecting at least more than 200 participants, which is quite impressive and demonstrates the broad interest in this new IKI funding program. I can say that I'm already looking forward to your new project ideas, and I sincerely wish you all a lot of success. And with that, I would like to hand over now to Thorsten Klose-Zuber, who is our new guy in the IKI ZUG. So a very important position, and we are very happy to welcome you in the IKI family, Thorsten, and are looking forward to the cooperation. Over to you.
Yes, Mr. Behrens, thank you so much for this introduction. And I'm very happy to be able to join this amazing initiative, which I actually did last week. And as mentioned, my name is Thorsten Klose, and I'm heading a department which was also newly created in the ZUG, focusing on climate policy, international climate action, and therefore also the climate initiative, the IKI, and environmental economics as well. You might ask yourself what actually that ZUG is doing in this process, and just to underline a little bit and explain to you that we are the program managing agency supporting the BMU in this initiative. And on behalf of the ZUG, what we are trying to do is that we provide as practical technical support as possible, as well as important administrative support to the ministry in all the different stages of the IKI funding program. So you could say that the ZUG is acting as the secretariat of the International Climate Initiative, and also as a facilitator of those different procedures. And as such a facilitator of the different IKI selection procedures, we are actually very happy also today to be able to host this first online seminar on the IKI Medium Grants selection procedure together with the BMU today. And seeing that we have already more than 200 participants in that call underlines the importance, obviously, of this new funding stream. What we try to do and why we have organized this seminar today is that we hope that through the seminar, we are able to offer additional guidance on the medium grants selection procedures to you as interesting organizations. Also, we will have room enough to answer your questions and to also encourage a diverse set of actors from obviously all around the globe to be able then to submit their project ideas based on a proper briefing that we are trying to achieve via this webinar today. So having said that, and also knowing that you are calling us from different regions all over the world, again, good morning, good afternoon, sometimes even good night. And I wish you very much a successful and a fruitful seminar with our different presenters. And I already would like to thank you for this impressive participation. So wishing you all the success and handing over back to Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again, Philip, and thank you, Torsten, especially on setting us off by answering some of the questions that we always get on the part of Philip. We always get questions on why IKI Medium Grants, what does IKI Medium Grants stand for, how different it is from the other calls that we have. And on the part of Torsten, answering who ZUG is, especially for those who are joining us today for the first time. With that, I would like to end this first session and move on to the second session. In this session, we have our experts from BMU and the IKI Secretariat who are here to dive in a bit deeper and explain on the IKI Medium Grants funding program, the selection procedure, as well as preparation of a successful IKI outline. I will call upon two of my colleagues. One will be, next slide, please. One will be Berit von Kanatowski, who is a senior officer within the International Climate Initiative Unit in the BMU and also responsible for the IKI Medium Grants. And the other is Jana Shishonka, an officer at the IKI Secretariat and also responsible for the IKI Medium Grants. Please, Berit, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah. I don't need to introduce myself. I'm really happy to be here. And it's really exciting to talk to the world at once, you know, like talking to India, Colombia. It's quite fascinating. And I would like to start with a short overview of the International Climate Initiative as such. The Climate Initiative was founded in 2008 and aims at enabling and promoting climate and biodiversity projects in developing, emerging, and transition countries. Since 2008, over 750 projects have been approved by IKI, involving a BMU funding volume of around 4.5 billion euro. At the same time, the annual financial expenditure of IKI has risen continuously from 120 million euro in 2008 to 567 million euro in 2020. IKI is a significant component of German international climate financing and contributes to the fulfillment of Germany's obligations as a contracting party under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD. BMU has commissioned ZUG to implement the funding program, as Torsten already stated. IKI promotes the mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions, the adaptation to the impacts of climate change, the conservation of natural carbon sinks, with a focus on reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, and the conservation of biodiversity. A prerequisite for receiving support from IKI is that the measures must be considered ODA eligible. ODA means official development assistance according to the definition of the OECD. Next slide, please. IKI promotes climate and biodiversity projects, as I just said, in developing and emerging countries with different thematic and geographical priorities. BMU selects IKI projects through ideas competitions, calls, which are regularly announced on the IKI website. We have two different approaches. There's first the bilateral approach. This country calls are announced with IKI partner countries, and specifically we also develop the whole process is developed together with partner countries. So it's very much focused on what our partners need. And then we have the thematic approach. First, we have this large-scale joint projects, the thematic calls. The latest call was closed on the 10th of March this year. And we have, on the other hand, the small-scale projects that are divided into IKI Small Grants and IKI Medium Grants. You can see on the right-hand side on this slide. With the country calls and the thematic calls, IKI primarily supports large-scale, comprehensive, large-volume joint projects. Joint projects are implemented by consortia of more than 2 implementing organizations. As I just mentioned, the thematic pillar includes the IKI small-scale projects aimed at small and medium-sized organizations. The IKI Small Grants is intended for applicants from the partner countries. It is administered by GEIZ. The latest call for the IKI Small Grants ended, unfortunately, on the 9th of February. So if that is interesting for some of our participants today, the next call will be published probably end of the year. Besides, it includes the IKI Medium Grants program implemented by ZUG and targeting NGOs and think tanks from Germany. Small-scale projects are used to promote the capacities of smaller players operating in developing and emerging countries. Next slide, please. Thanks. Now I would like to dive deeper into the IKI Medium Grants program. The IMG, as we call it, was invented to support smaller scale projects and organizations compared to the IKI thematic and country calls. The first call was launched in 2020 and we received over 200 outlines. Philip just mentioned that. We were able to select 11 project outlines, which were really exciting. And if you're interested, you can see on our website, we published information on these 11 outlines. The overall program objectives are stated here. We want to address innovative bottom-up contributions for the Paris Agreement and the CBD. And also we want to strengthen North-South cooperation as well as civil society actors as such. Next slide, please. I would like to come now to some corner points. Should be interesting for you. The funding volume per project ranges from 300 to 800,000 euro. The project duration should be planned between 2 and 3 years. In total, we have an annual budget for IMG of 6 million euro at our disposal. That means we can select 8 to 12 projects per year. We have a 2-stage selection procedure as described in our funding information. And also Jana will give some details on this later on. The thematic funding priorities vary every year, and new calls are published every year around February. The latest, as you know, on the 20th of February. Next slide, please. Important characteristics are a convincing project concept. That means it should be innovative in some way. The direction of effect should be bottom-up. The concept should address one of the funding priorities. That means either the topic resilience or participatory processes. And it should focus on one or both funding approaches. which are stated in the funding information. The partner structure is, of course, also crucial. Applicants can only be German organizations. They must cooperate with 1 or 2 local partners from the country or region of implementation. And also we would like to see a clear vision of a North-South partnership. That means a partnership at eye level, really. Roles and responsibilities need to be clearly specified, and also the partnership must address opportunities for knowledge sharing and ideally mutual learning. And now I'm coming to my last slide. Here you can see an overview of the selected outlines last year. The numbers also show that the success rate is only 5%, which is not very much. And I really don't want to disillusion anyone, but I really beg you to keep this in mind. I mean, don't have too high expectations. But nevertheless, we are looking forward to your proposals, of course. And with that, I'm at the end, and I hand over to Sarah or Jana. Thanks.
And now I would like to call upon Jana to do her presentation.
Yeah, next slide, please. Yes, after we learned now what the IKI is trying to achieve and what the IKI Medium Grant funding program is going to achieve a little more in particular, we are now even more looking more detailed of what will the selection procedure of this year's IKI Medium Grants will be like. So I would like to have the next slide, please. As we mentioned before, we launched this year's funding information on the 25th of February this year. And the call is closing on the 24th of May. So you still have approximately 8 weeks remaining to submit a project outline for the IKI Medium Grants. And this year's call is focusing on 2 thematic funding priorities, which is the first one is COVID-19 and adaptation to the impacts of climate change, promoting resilience in local populations and communities. And the second thematic funding priority is a little wider and is called developing, supporting and strengthening participatory processes and methods of ambitious, inclusive climate actions. And when you are writing a project outline for the IKI Medium Grants call, we are not only asking you to match your project idea with one of those 2 thematic funding priorities, but you also have to cover one or both of the named funding approaches within the IKI Medium Grants program. And this year's funding approaches are aiming for local implementation of pilot projects or the building and expanding of capacities. You will find those information and even more information on our IKI webpage. And as we are going to share this presentation afterwards in our IKI presentation, we already linked all the most recent information in this presentation already. Next slide, please. Berit mentioned before that the selection procedure is a 2-stage selection procedure, but normally nobody knows what 2 stages means. So we now want to give a short overview about the 2 stages of a selection procedure. This 2-stage selection procedure is a tool we use for not only the IKI Medium Grants, but also for the thematic call and the country-specific calls of the IKI. The first stage in general is the selection of project outlines. You submit your project outline. We are going to assess all of the project outlines, and we together with BMU are going to select the most promising outlines. And the second stage of the selection procedure is the reviewing of the full proposals and a final funding decision. Just after you got a final funding decision, is the selection procedure finished, and then the project implementation starts. What we're going to do now in this webinar or online seminar today is that we are having a more or clear focus on the first stage of the selection procedure. So therefore, I would like to ask Philip for the next slide, please. Yes, as I mentioned before, this year's selection procedure started on the 25th of February and is going to finish on the 24th of May for you. And afterwards, the work of ZUG or the IKI Secretariat starts. And we are going to check or assess all submitted project outlines. And we try to organize this year's selection procedure already, also in 3 different steps. And the first step is going to be the check of all formal requirements of the IKI Medium Grants funding program. The formal requirements are also all exclusion criteria mentioned in the funding information. The second stage is, if you passed as the outline, the check of the formal requirements, we are going to assess all the remaining public outlines technically on basis of their project concept. And we're going to weight every project concept. And approximately the best 50 of those weightings are going to reach the 3rd assessment step, which will be the technical assessment of the partners and the described partnerships, that what we are aiming for with the North-South cooperation within the IKI Medium Grants program. And we are trying to achieve this all within the next 5 months after the call is closed. So we would like to achieve a final selection of the project outlines by October 2021. So you will get an invitation for the second part of the selection stage in the fourth of 2021. Yeah, next slide, please. As I mentioned, we are having 3 assessment steps, and I would like to give you a more clear idea of what we are going to assess within those steps now. And as I mentioned as well, the first stage is the compliance with the formal project requirements. And there we are going to check on all named exclusion criteria. You will find those exclusion criteria again in the funding information in Annex 1. All exclusion criteria are tagged with an exclamation mark in the list. And especially we are going to focus on the general funding requirements. We are going to check the duration and amount of funding you are applying for, or if the project concept has a maximum 6 pages. Yeah. The only non-exclusion criteria we are already checking or within this step is the criterion on financial contribution. As this is not a clear criterion, but an information we need to review your concept in a total. Yeah. If you don't pass any of those exclusion criteria, we have to exclude you from the further selection process, but every remaining outline is going automatically in the second assessment stage, which I would like to give you more information in the next slide about. Thank you. The second stage, or the second assessment stage, is the technical eligibility of your project idea, you can say. All criteria mentioned below requirements we ask you to reply on within the project concept. That's why we call it technical eligibility of your project concept. Yeah, and therefore we are focusing on criteria like the consistency of your project idea with the selected funding priority, as well as the argumentation for your selected funding approaches. If you choose funding approach 1, the implementation of a pilot project, you have to clearly state your level of innovation within your project concept. And if you choose the capacity building funding approach, you also have to clearly state which method you will use for strengthening capacities within the implementation of your project. Other criteria we are going to assess within this step are, for example, on the explanation how the project links to the current situation in the country of implementation, or a clear vision of target groups and the knowledge transfer to the target groups, as well as possible project risks and the sustainability of your project results. Yeah. Later within the presentation, I will also give you some hints on how you can clearly state exactly those questions. Next slide, please. And the third step of assessment is the last step of assessment. That's what the last 50 project outlines probably will be assessed by, and this is the formal and technical eligibility of the partner structure. There we clearly focus on how you as a German implementing organization or both of the local implementing organization plan to work together. The assessment of these criteria is based on the information given in the project outline, as well as the project references within the project outline. The German implementing organization has to show sufficient experience in international cooperation and technical expertise, whereas the local implementing organizations have only show a sufficient experience in their technical expertise. A third key question within this assessment step is the assessment of the North-South partnership. There we would like to get a better understanding of your fair division of tasks and roles, the budget allocation, and the cooperative knowledge exchange among all partners. Next slide, please. As we now know all criteria which will be assessed, we are now providing all information needed on how the outline form is structured to you. Next slide, please. We mentioned before, the outline has two parts, which is the project outline and the project concept. All formal requirements or exclusion criteria are requested within the project outline, and all technical requirements are requested within the project concept and the indicated project references. You can only submit an outline on the online platform, and the deadline of submission is, as we said before, the 24th of May. If you already had the chance to check on the online platform, you probably figured that out, but on the online platform, we provided 2 Word templates to you, and this is one Word template for the project outline and a second template for the project concept, and you can use both for developing your project outline before you submit it to us. On the right side of the slide, you see a little cutout of the online platform, and you see how we structured the online form in total. The first agenda or the first chapter, we ask you to hand in information as the project information, which are basically formal information on your project idea. For example, the title of your project outline, which thematic funding priority you are going to select, or the project duration in total. New compared to last year that you still have to provide a project description, but for this year we provided some guiding questions to you. So we have an equal standard for the project description. And another new point in this year's selection procedure is that you have to sum up your envisioned overall project outcome in 1 sentence to us within this chapter. The second chapter is the implementing organizations. There you have to give an overview about all organizational information and contact information of all partners, including the German and local ones. The third chapter is the project concept. There you have to upload the project concept as a PDF file. And here I would like to remind you that you don't have to exceed 6 pages for the project concept. And the fourth and final chapter is my personal favorite chapter, the budget chapter. Here we would like to remind you that we don't need detailed information on the project budget in this part of the selection procedure, but we need a broad overview on how you would like to spend the money. Therefore, we divided the budget part into 4 small chapters. The first one is the general project expenditures. There, we would like to get an overview of what does it cost to implement the project and how do you divide those costs between staff, material, and investments. The second one is the overall project financing. Therefore, we would like to get an idea on what is the overall project cost and how does it divide into the BMU funding, own funding, and external funding. The fourth question we ask in this chapter is the third question is the annual allocation of the BMU funding during the project duration. For example, the project is going to start in 2022. How much BMU funding do you need in 2022? And the last budget question here is the distribution of BMU and own funding between all project partners. Also, for example, the BMU overall BMU funding will be about 800,000 euro. And you have two partners. Partner one is getting 400,000, partner two is getting 400,000. And partner one is also giving own funding. And that's what you have to show off within this question. And then we have also the annex for the project references in this project outline form. Each partner has at least provide one project reference for German and local organizations. And the German implementing organization can maximum provide 5 project references, and the local organization can maximum provide 3 project references. This is just due to the fact that the German organization asked for their experience in international cooperation and their technical expertise, and the local organization only for their local or their technical expertise. If you provide IKI projects as project references, you're allowed to, but we ask you to provide the signature of the IKI project as well for administrative reason only. But IKI project as references projects, you don't have to provide them, and they would not cause any better rating compared to other project references. The references generally should provide proof of technical competences, administrative capacity, and management skills necessary to plan and implement the project. Next slide, please. Thank you. As you learned before, IKI is not a new tool. We are existing for several years already. And during those years or decades of project planning and organization, we already gained some general advice and remarks to you. And general remarks for project outlines are, for example, that you use a clear and precise language in your project outlines. You should avoid buzzwording and language exaggeration, and always try to keep it short and to the point. Even so, the outline is written by different partners. Please ensure that the bits and pieces fit together. And please keep in mind that the outline is still feasible when the drafting of the project proposal starts. The outline is selected because of the information given in the outline. We also have some advices for you for the context of the project outlines. These are, for example, please be clear in the technical justification of the country selection in terms of generating solutions for the local challenges, create synergies with existing resources and other projects, but please also avoid duplications with similar projects in the project region. Next slide, please. We also have advices for the project partners. Therefore, we would like to see the strong competences of all partners. So the IKI Medium Grants aim for North-South cooperation and partnership. That's what we taught you before. So please highlight the partnership and how you plan to work together as partners. You should also reflect the knowledge transfer you try to achieve. So what do you think you will be learning from each other, and how? The experience of all partners need to be suitable and should complete each other. And the competences of all partners should be considered in the budget distribution of the BMU funding among all partners evenly. Some advices for the project visions as well. Please try to provide an innovative approach. The project outline should be consistent with the IKI Medium Grants funding priority, as well as the overall IKI Medium Grants program objectives. The project outcomes need to address the needs of the local civil society and clearly define the benefit the project brings to the local population. And please also include considerations on upscaling and exit strategies from the beginning. So, next slide, please. There we have another goodie for you. Another general advice is that you should clearly structure the impact logic of your outline. This means you should be most specific, plausible, and you have to have a realistic approach. The presentation of the impact logic and the result chain theory and the logical framework should be consistent, and you should generally focus a clear structure of the work packages and also include some concrete implementation activities as examples already, as this is something really difficult for some organization, and especially the consideration of our advisors on this impact logic could give you a clear selling point to us to make us understand your project idea. And therefore we are organizing a second online seminar on the technical requirements of the IKI Medium Grants. This takes part on the 13th of April. And the topics are the overview of the technical requirements for the submission of an IKI Medium Grants project outline, as well as the introduction into the elaboration of a result chain for project outlines. And we also linked the registration form here already for you. Next slide, please. Thank you. After the first and second selection stage are passed, we also wanted to give you a little and a short overview about the IKI Medium Grants project cycle. Next slide, please. The project cycle is based on the German funding regulations, as our first contact person always will be the German implementing partner to us. During the project duration, the German implementing organization is asked each year to hand in a half-yearly update in March and September of each year. The half-yearly updates have the aim to inform the IKI Secretariat and the BMU about relevant political developments in the project environment and significant events in the project implementation. Each year, at the end of April, it is also mandatory for projects to submit an interim report for the previous year. This combines a status report as well as a financial statement. In the status report, the German implementing organization reports on the progress of the activities and achievement of results. And in the final end of the project implementation, you have to submit a final project report. This can be not later than 6 months after the end of the project. And it needs to combine the project report and the proof of use of the funding. And all of those reporting templates will be found on the IKI webpage as well. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. And I hand over to Sarah again.
Thank you very much, Jana. Thank you very much, Berit. We are now coming to the third session of this seminar today. And first of all, I would like to ask everyone who has questions, please use the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen and send us the questions that you may have that we could answer during this seminar. Besides that, I would like to thank Berit and thank Jana for the detailed presentation that you have given us today, and also let our viewers know that all the information that is here today and that you have presented is available on the IKI website. We will also upload the recording of this seminar as well as the presentation online for everyone to be able to access it. And now I would like to get into the question and answer session. Yeah, and would just like to direct my first questions actually to Berit. Yeah, and Berit, there's a question coming in, and people are asking if the IKI grants have one call per year, or would you know if the grant program will be advertised again in 2022? So maybe just to give us to look forward when they can expect the next grant announcement.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Yes, we are planning yearly calls for the IKI Medium Grants. We started with 30 million euro for this program for the next, for altogether 5 years. So at the moment, it looks like we are publishing in every case until 2024. But I suppose, or I mean, it's not discussed yet and not decided, but I suppose it will go on, like the program will go on. Yes, and the calls are published yearly around this time, end of February, beginning of March. Thanks.
Yes, thanks, Berit. Allow me to just stay with you a bit, because I can see there's it's not only the call, but I think for the countries, we have very many countries today. And I think they're interested to know if the call that they're making, if you will select them per country, or if how many projects can one country apply for, and if the current call applies to a certain region or not, has a focus to a region or dimensions to refer to a certain region.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, also a good question. First of all, as we just said in our presentation, that the countries where you want to work must be ODA eligible. We published a country list on our website. You find it just beneath the funding information, but you can also have a look on the OECD website. The DAC list, that's actually what we refer to. And geographically, we are not, there is no focus. Like we accept projects or outlines from everywhere. It is possible that we select projects it is possible that we select more than one outline per country, but it is, well, normally we actually look after, you know, like a good diversity also geographically. So it could be in the last call, no, I think there was no doubling in countries, but it's not, I mean, you can apply as much as you want, or you can hand in outlines for countries as much as you want. There's no limit. But, well, the choice of country is insofar important that you must explain why you're choosing this country. And you would have to say, you know, what is the starting point in the country. It would be great if you already had some experience there. Yeah, that would be the criteria. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Berit. Just to give Yana some time to drink some water before we move on, yeah, I would like to ask you one more question. And having in mind about the current COVID situation, the pandemic, yeah, what can you share a few details if there's expectations of integrating COVID-19 programming in the project design, if this is something that you would prefer or you would advise?
Yes, I mean, we try to be precise in our funding information. I mean, COVID-19 is a crisis related to, you know, biodiversity not having the space to expand as it would like to. And the climate crisis is something, you know, which comes as well at the moment, and the challenges are to meet both. And in our view, if you plan activities or measures addressing vulnerable people or populations and addressing the topic of adaptation to climate change, then at the same time, I mean, that is my view, at the same time, you somehow also address the COVID-19 crisis. I mean, it's not, for us, it is not really feasible to not talk about the COVID-19 crisis, because it is a big issue right now. It might be different in 2022 when the projects start, but the consequences you will still see, and people, yeah, will have to cope with that. And I really would like to ask you to have a look at the funding information. I suppose you did already, and I mean, your question is quite right. I can't really give you a better answer. I think that is my view. Again, if you address the topic resilience, adaptation to climate change, and you are trying to form income for populations which are really vulnerable, you meet both. Maybe Jana, you would like to add?
No, you did it pretty precisely. It's fine.
Thank you very much, Berit. Now, Jana, let's give the content issue to rest a while. We will get back to it with each of you, but I have here with me some technical questions that I would like Jana to address. One is, why can you apply for the IKI Medium Grant per email and not through the website?
No, you can only apply over the online platform. This is due to the fact that we are waiting. Last year we had 200 outlines, and I personally expect again at least 200 outlines. So there's a huge amount of data we have to coordinate and organize within the IKI Secretariat. That's why you have to have or you have to submit over the online platform. There's no other option.
Yes. I still have some more technical questions for you. Jana, please allow me. I have maybe two coming up next. The first one I would like to ask is, why is the selection procedure and project outline in the German language?
It was in the German language last year, and we changed it according to your feedback into English language. So the whole IKI Medium Grants process now is in English language. The outline, the concept is in English language, as well as the full proposal, and all templates according to the project implementation phase. We are now an all English funding program. So there's an equal language standard between the partners as well. And we are not focusing only on the German implementing organizations.
Yes. Yes, thank you for that. And I would add on to all information is available on the IKI website as well. Now, Jana, allow me to go forward by asking you, because you talked about the project outlines, and there's a question coming up on how the project outlines will be assessed.
Mm-hmm. That's why that's what I try to say in the presentation. We have a 3-step assessment selection procedure. The first step again is the checking on all exclusion criteria and the formal requirements of the project. And each project outline which is passing those check-up is going to the first technical assessment, which will be the assessment of the project concept and the project idea as our idea. And we are going to rank those project concept assessment, and the best 50 ranked outlines, approximately 50, will reach the 3rd step, which will be the assessment of the expertise and of all partners and the partnership. Like, how do you describe the partnership will be like? That's what the 3rd step of assessment will be. And after this is finished, we have a total ranking of all outlines, and based on that, BMU is going to make the final decision and select the most promising outlines, which will reach the 2nd selection step in January, which will be the submission and the review of the full proposal.
Thank you a lot. I now get back to Barry's now with going back again to issue or a question in relation to the content. And the question says, may I submit my last year's project outline again for this year?
In general, there's no reason why not. I mean, the only reason we have different funding priorities. So I doubt that it really fits, but you would have to see. I mean, the last year, the funding priorities were quite, open and wide. So if it fits, yeah, sure, great. You're welcome. I mean, you would have to fill in the outline form, like on the website again, of course. But if the idea is not new, it doesn't matter, really.
Thank you.
I mean, not new in the sense that you didn't submit, that you submitted the outline already last year. Sorry.
Yes. Thanks, Berit. I have one more question for you, Berit. Please stay on. The funding information states that countries should be chosen for bilateral projects. Would it be possible to use the funds to implement the same project in 2 or more countries at the same time? For example, in South Sudan, Uganda, or in Mozambique. This is given the fact that maybe they have country offices and field workers in each country who could ensure successful implementation of the project.
Mm. I mean, we're like our prior focus lies on bilateral projects and outlines, but it is possible, of course, and to address 2 countries, but not more than 2 countries, please. And they don't necessarily have to be neighboring, but it would be great if there's some geographic focus, you know. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. Like, we would like to avoid travel expenses, emissions from, you know, travel, and so it should be the same geographic region.
Yeah, maybe just a point to add on here. When you fill out the outline form on the platform, you can only choose one implementing country or a second one within the same geographical region. You can't choose any other country out of this region because the program doesn't allow it. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. We are receiving now, for both of you, we are receiving quite a number of questions with regards to terms that the BME is using, and just what do these terms basically mean. And one of it is a question that goes to Berit, is if you can please enlarge on the understanding of bottom-up approach. What does it compromise? Is having 1 to 2 local partners already sufficient for meeting this requirement? Berit, we cannot hear you. Your microphone has been switched off.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, I just said that the term bottom up for me is quite straightforward. I mean, it is not top down. Therefore, bottom up means that you're working with communities, or rather a local level, and really try to establish, you know, a role model for upscaling later on. I'm not sure if that answers the question. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you could clarify a little bit in the Q&A, maybe.
I will ask them to clarify a little and send us the question on the Q&A, and we'll be able to address it. That's okay. Yeah, I have yet another question with regards to the terms used, Berit. What does BMU mean by the term innovative project idea, as innovative can be interpreted differently depending on the context?
Yeah, sure. I'm not an innovation expert, but in this context, it definitely means it must be new in some ways, and new in a way, you know, to trigger transformational change. I mean, we're not expecting that your projects will, you know, change the world just like that, but it should be a starting point somehow. And we all know innovation, it doesn't mean that you have the innovation and it will work. We are also, like, you know, trying out different approaches. So innovative for me means new measures, new context, new some aspect where we can see that you're trying to, yeah, to how should I put it?
Maybe
there must be. Yeah, sure.
Should I step in here? Yeah, what Berit tries to say, like, I don't remember if any of you have been applying last year's call, but there the focus was more on a transformative approach of the IKI Medium Grants outline, and we clearly defined it for this year's call for an innovative approach. And this means you can either choose new instruments or methods or products you try to invent within your project. And that's why you also can choose between doing a pilot project or also trying new method within capacity building. That's you have to define your innovation individually, and you have to sell it to us. Yeah. What's the innovation for you within this project idea?
Yes, I think that answers our questions. And since Jana came in, I think I would like to continue with you, Jana. Yeah. What is the level of competitiveness after the first stage when getting involved for a full project proposal? How likely is the acceptance?
That's a good question, as we try to be user-friendly in these terms. As I said, the first assessment stage is the assessment of all exclusion criteria, and we were programming the online platform in this terms that pretty much you can't submit your outline if you face any of this exclusion criteria, you actually can't submit your outline. So pretty much everyone should pass the first assessment stage. And if the question is regarding to how many projects are going to select it within the first stage in total, that's what Berit mentioned before. Last year's call was around 200 outlines. We got around 200 outlines, and we only could select 11 projects in the end. So there the success rate was about 5%.
There's a question that has come in, Jana, now that we are talking about the 200 proposals that were received and only 11 selected. And somebody would like to know how many proposals of the 200 was eligible?
Last year it was, I guess it was around 150. I don't have the exact number in mind, but it was at least, I guess it was 75% around this, but we are thinking that this percentage this year will be much higher as we changed the programming of the outline. So you can't miss any exclusion criteria actually.
Yes. Thanks, Jana. As I had asked Berit before, and now I come to you because we also have a question with regarding to the terms. What is meant by the term exit strategy?
Sorry, I need some time to unmute. Thanks, Sarah. I mean, exit strategy is also, like in my view, quite straightforward. I mean, it means in a way sustainability. We would like you to explore and to plan how, if the intervention ends within your project, how the results can be kept and can work on. So exit strategy means you're going out, but the results are still there, and the knowledge lives on, like the capacity. Normally it means that you actually have people there who can work in this field, or are working in this field further, and that there's some kind of financing mechanism. That is normally the big problem, and that is quite usual for environmental and climate protection. But that would be great. I mean, what we would like to see is that you are keeping this in mind and that you're addressing this problem. I mean, we don't need the full solution right now, but you have to work on that as well. That is our aim.
I have now thanks, Berit. I now have a question to Jana. Are local offices that are affiliated to German organizations eligible to be included in the project budget as enablers of local implementation through local civil society organizations? I'll just read it out again because it was pretty long so that then you can get it.
That was my impression as well.
Are local offices that are affiliated to German organizations eligible to be included in the project budget as enablers of local implementation through local civil society organizations.
Okay, yeah, there you have two options which come up to my mind. Either you can always name local implementing partners, organizations. You have to name at least one. You can maximum name 2 local implementation partners. And therefore we have the criteria that local implementation organization have to be registered in the country of implementation or in the region of the country of implementation. And they have to be, oh, now I missed the English word, gemeinnützig. Yeah, but I can translate together. Yeah, that's the only criteria which will take part for the local organization in terms of formal criteria. The other possibility, you have to always conduct other partners or other organization within the project is over subcontracting. But therefore, the first partner for us is the German implementing partner, and therefore we have pretty strict rules and regulation for subcontracting. We call it Vergaberecht. And this normally says that you have a clear idea in mind what another subcontractor has to do within the project implementation, but you're not allowed to name those organizations already within your project outline. So you can choose other partners outside of the partner construct in subcontracting, but normally, according to German law and Vergabe regulations, you are not allowed to name them already. So you can only clear out what are they supposed to do within the implementation phase, but not who's going to do that.
Can I, Sarah, can I add something?
Yes.
Because I would be like the local offices that were mentioned in this question should be registered in this country somehow. Yep. I mean, but we are not funding or local organizations are not offices where they're just offices of a certain organization. I mean, I know that WWF is really registered in different countries and they work quite independently. That would be, for my understanding, a local partner. But there must be some kind of some kind of registration and official status in this partner country.
Related to this question is a question that just came in, and I will just read it out to both of you. Will an international NGO based in Germany with its associated country office in the implementing country be assessed as the German civil society actor? In addition, 1 to 2 local implementing organizations, or will this, or in this case, be the INGO country office be assessed as one of the local implementing organizations?
That is a really tricky question when you just get it not on paper, but if somebody is reading it to you. What we say as formal criteria for the German implementing organization is that they have to be registered in Germany, of course, and they also have to have their core businesses within Germany. I'm not sure which international NGO is mentioned here, but you also have to provide information on what's your core business. And if you're called an international NGO, I consider that it's not its core business within Germany, but Berit can add on here if she wants to.
Not really. I mean, I would suggest we trying to answer this question later on in the FAQs. But I mean, we're planning to publish the FAQs in English as well, and we keep this in mind. I don't have an ready answer. Sorry.
Yes. For all those who've joined us today, we have an FAQ document that keeps on re-updating as time goes by. Please continue to check the website and look at this FAQ document. And in case there are questions that we haven't been able to answer today, then they will be on the FAQ document. Now, I come to another question, Jana, maybe closely related to to the questions that we've been having now. Can commercial companies be subcontractors or technical advisor for the non-profit implementing organization?
For the German or the local implementing organization, is it clear in the question?
It's for the non-profit implementing organization, but it is not clear whether it is German or whether it is local.
Yeah, but in general, of course, as the commercial organization can't be the German implementing organization. Technically, it would be possible that they become subcontractors, but within the project outline, we try to transfer as much funding within the implementing organization, within the implementing country as possible. So if there would be a possibility that some organization within the implementing country could do the same job for the same amount of funding, then you have to do what I said before, the subcontracting regulations. You should clearly state why this commercial company should do the subcontraction work and not another organization, maybe also within the implementing country.
Mm. Thank you very much, Jana. Here we have yet another questions with regards to Germany, the lead organizations. I think you've already said that this will be clarified again on the FAQs, but I just thought that maybe I would read it out to you again so that then you have it in mind. And this is something that if you have a comment, you can comment or we can include it. And the question is, I would like to know if the German lead organization should be a non-governmental. What is the term for local implementing organization? What type of local organization can match with the lead organization to apply for the funding?
That was more than one question, Sarah.
Yes, yes, but it's all linked in, and it's also linked into what we have been discussing about these organizations from local and the German organizations and the relation that can be that they should have, and also that will be highlighted on the FAQ. And I'm not so sure if any of you would like to comment on this question or not. If not, we could move to the next question.
It is a clear statement that the German implementing organization doesn't have to be an NGO, but can be. This is part of the eligible institution forms.
Yes, thank you, Jana. I now have a question for Berit, and it regards with co-funding. Is it possible to have co-funding, and if yes, what is the percentage BMU expects as an own contribution? Yeah. And the co-funding also asks if it is possible to have co-funding with other German donors.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, we how do you say? We differentiate between BMU funds, own funds, where there is no set amount. I mean, that really depends on a case-to-case decision. Like, we really look at the organization applying, what is their, financial background? Do they have the means to actually provide own funds? If not, it is not, it is not obligatory, but it would be, I mean, we have a look at that. So if this is a big organization, we would expect that there are some own funds. And third funds are welcome, also from other German donors, but you must keep in mind that the project the project shouldn't have started yet. So if you can show that, you're collecting money also from the IKI Medium Grants to start a project in the near future, and you have other donors, then that wouldn't be a problem. I mean, actually, I'm not so sure if that is true, and I really would like to postpone the answer, or maybe Jana can jump in. Jana?
Yeah, sure. I can point out some other information about own funds. As we said before, and as it's stated out in the funding information as well, that the checkup of own funds is a case-by-case assessment we are doing. Like that, we can't give you a percentage of own funds you have to apply with. But what also is important to say is that only German implementing organization can name own funds. If the local partner organizations have own funds as well, they are called external funding actually in our funding regulation rules. And you also have to divide between own funds and own contributions. What we are needing are uncommitted financial resources. So if you plan to have own funds in terms from like staff costs and stuff like that, that's not what we call own funds. And what to come back to the questions in general is that you can have co-financing, which would be external funding as well. And what Berit said is completely true. Like you have to check that your project idea hasn't been started yet, which also means it can be financed already by other partners. But together we can plan the project and do co-financing as well. And that would be mentioned under external funding in the outline form.
Now, my next question, Jana, if you don't mind, with regards to finding a German partner, if it is difficult to find a German partner, can the IKI grant find a partner, or can we submit as local NGO?
No, to both questions, unfortunately, we have to say no. We can't find you a German partner. Yeah, and you can't submit as a local partner. The only partner who can submit the proposal is the German implementing partner with local partners in the implementing countries. So unfortunately, no, but maybe Berit wants to say something how we can't support or how we can support on finding partners throughout the world.
Yes. Thanks. Jana, I just would like to add 2 points. I mean, first, please look at our IKI website and the IKI Small Grants program, especially the organizations abroad. The IKI Small Grants is administered by GIZ, and you can just fill out the form and submit a proposal via the internet. The second point is I was just following a bit the chat, and I think some people, it's great, trying to connect via chat, and they are leaving their contact details. I think nobody is annoyed if you're doing that, and it's actually quite great. And so maybe that would be an option, but at the moment we don't have a platform, for meeting all like a networking platform. I mean, we are discussing that how we can manage, but we at the moment we are not there yet.
Thank you, Berit. Now, according to the call, only one organization in Germany can submit a project proposal. Is it possible to build a consortium if a member of the consortium assumes the leadership of the proposal?
To whom did you direct the question?
I would like to direct it to Berit. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I'm afraid you have to repeat. I don't see the question, and I just got that there was talk about the consortium, which I don't see for the IKI Medium Grants. But please, if you could repeat, sorry.
Yes, I will repeat the question, Berit. Yeah, I will repeat this question. The main question is if it is possible to build a consortium if a member of the consortium assumes leadership of the proposal. So you build a consortium of many partners and then one person takes on the leadership.
Well, the consortium must consist of 2 organizations. I mean, German as the applicant, and then the local implementing partner, and the lead must be with the German organization. I mean, I can't really add more. I hope that answers the question.
Yes.
The consortium, we normally working with consortia at the large joint projects. I mean, here we're not really talking about consortia because it's actually 2 partners we are looking for. Or was it 3 partners? No, I think 2.
Up to maximum 3 partners, but we would clearly state out the term of partner and partnership and not consortia.
I mean, probably if there are 3 partners, you can somehow also call it a consortia, but the applicant must be the German organization.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes. Thanks for clarifying it, Berit. And kindly allow me to just go ahead with asking you another question because it is also political. Yeah. And for example, with Myanmar's current political situation, will this round of IKI funding be able to support a project application in Myanmar?
Very good question. That is really not easy to answer. I mean, we didn't, you know, we refused to say we are not going to fund projects in Myanmar because we would like to be open. And also we see that, you know, strengthening civil society actors is even more important in these countries. But what we need for the IKI Medium Grants is some kind of political endorsement. So the partner countries are informed via information letters. So well, it is like normally environmental and climate protection and biodiversity conservation is common ground. I mean, there's no, normally on the political level, you hardly have ever differences. So we are trying, I mean, the ambition level is different, of course, but normally the aim, you know, the big aim is the same. And Myanmar is also part of the Paris Agreement. So it would be possible. It is difficult, and you must keep in mind that also the implementation there could be a little bit difficult, more difficult than other countries. But in general, yes, I mean, they're not excluding any country. I mean, must be ODA eligible, and we are not really keen on projects in North Korea, but otherwise it is open. But you would have to keep in mind, can you implement there? Can you really have an impact there? Are you reaching the people you would like to reach? And that are the questions you should somehow address in the project concept, like especially in this difficult context.
Thank you, Berit. I now get back to you, Jana, and I have a question here. What is the requisite for presenting organizations regarding total operating budget, and what is the amount that they can be requested?
That's also a case-to-case reviewing, actually. There is no percentage we can tell you or advise you to divide the BMU funding with the partners. It just has to fit the needs and what is the character or what is of local partner 1 and local partner 2 and the German partner. How do they divide the planned work packages throughout each other, and how is the budget allocated through the work packages? Like if you plan that the major work is to be done by the first local partner, then the most of the budget should go to this local organization as well. Like, how do you divide the work? So the budget should be divided as well.
I have yet another question, and now I'm thinking maybe I should have asked it before the question I just asked, yeah? And this with regards to the role or involvement of the German organization. What should be the role or involvement of the German organizations?
this is also, I would say, case-to-case assessment, because like there's a fixed role for the German implementing organization, and this is our contract partner. They get a Zuwendungsbescheid, the grant agreement from our side, from the IKI Secretariat. So they have the administrative part, at least within the project partnership. They have to report to us. They have to send the financial requests and stuff like that. But what they do as a technical partner within the partnership, that's what you have to choose case by case and project by project.
Thank you, Jana. Please just kindly allow me to go further and ask you yet another question with regards to the proposal. Do you accept proposals that focus on both funding approaches?
Yes, we do. You have to choose one of the thematic funding priorities, but you can choose one or both of the funding approaches for your project outline. And it depends on which funding approach you choose. You have to reflect a specific criteria within the project concept again. Like when you choose the funding approach pilot project, then you have to clearly state the level of innovation within your project concept. And if you choose the funding approach capacity building, then you have to clearly describe the method you're going to use for capacity building. And when you choose both of the funding approaches, then you actually have to reflect both of those criteria within your funding concept proposal. No, your project concept. That's how we say it. Yeah.
Yes. I have yet another question that I would like to direct to Berit. And the question is if it is possible to be implementing local partner NGO from a university in Iran.
I don't see why not. Jana, you're having an idea? I mean, I don't really see why not, really.
Yeah, and that's what I would say as well. There is no point, why not? But
yeah, Iran is quite difficult as well at the moment. But yeah, I mean, the government is quite, how should I put it? They are quite keen to see and to control what projects are going on. So in Iran, it would be probably a bit more difficult to politically endorse a project, but it is no problem if they are with us, and we have like a BMU has quite a good cooperation with the Iranian government. So yes, I would say yes.
Yeah, and according to the funding information, a local university in an implementing country fits all the formal criteria for a local organization as well.
I think the question I just asked maybe could be related to yet another question that we got, whether is there a need to have political partners supporting the proposal in the local implementing country. I think Berit already touched shortly on this before when she answered the question before, but I would just like to put it forward to you again, maybe Berit again. Is there a need to have political partners support the proposal in the local implementing country? If so, how should this support needs to be demonstrated? How will this support be demonstrated?
No, well, good question. You don't need a direct political support. I mean, for our big joint programs, we ask for that. Then we always ask for a political partner with whom the project is implemented. And because, you know, the range is from 15 to 20 million, this is really a large amount of money. And for that, you need really anchoring in the countries. But these are quite small projects. The political endorsement normally goes like that. We are if your outline is chosen or selected, then we will send at some stage before the project starts an information letter to the UNFCCC focal point, informing that there's going to be a project with the content blah, blah, blah. And then normally we say, if you have any reservations, please contact us within the next 4 weeks. But normally it just goes through. Like so far, we never had any responses, negative responses. So yeah, it's quite a very, I call it political endorsement light, because it's just we're just informing them. It's the amount is not so impressive, and normally this bottom-up approaches, there's no need for political anchoring. I mean, I'm not saying this is not important. It is really important. But for this kind of projects, we don't need a political partner really working on this project. Thanks.
Thanks, Berit. Now, there's another question yet again on criteria, Jana, that I would like to direct to you. It seems you are getting a lot of questions in related to criteria, or in relation to the different organizations and whether they're eligible for funding. And so I have two questions that are almost related and something that we've tackled on, but do bear with me because they're the questions coming in, and therefore I take it that people still need a bit more explanation and understanding. And this question is that for a German NGO submits about 2/3 of the project concept notes. In this case, I gather it's the requirements. If they meet the criteria with the 2/3 requirements they've submitted, do they have a chance to go through with the full proposal and approval?
This depends on which of the criteria are the two parts. If one part is not, like if they don't fit an exclusion criteria, they have no chance to reach the end point of the assessment procedure. But if they fit all exclusion criteria and the rest of the assessments criteria are fit like 2/3, then we have to check on the overall quality of the project outline. And as we said before, last year we got a submission number of around 200 project outlines. So compared to that, there will always be someone who's fitting all the criteria. And then normally we would choose a project outline who's fitting all the criteria, because that's what we cover with a better quality.
Yes, I have now another question coming on with regards to the implementing organizations, and we have someone who's asking again if you can clarify a little bit further, and that is, if we include 2 local implementing organizations, can they both be located in the same country?
Yes, they can, and we would like to see that actually, because that's like from a broad perspective, that's what we call also networking within a country of implementation. So yeah, why not? Clear answer. You can choose 2 local partners and they can both part within the same country.
Okay, I have one more question, Jana, if you may. If the project idea is a technically innovative solution in accordance with the application requirements, can the project finance this solution as a pilot project?
Yeah, I would ask a question back on that actually, because it's what we are going to finance are projects, but what we are not going to finance are developing of technologies. There we can only finance to a specific level of technology innovation, like demonstrative characters and stuff like that. So that's what we ask this person again. Instead, like, yeah, now I lost my point, but what I wanted to say is, yeah, we can fund innovative technology, but only to a specific amount, and it also has to be based within a project idea and a project implementation.
I think this is somehow related to also other questions that we seem to be getting on. I'll just read it out to you because we are taking live questions on. Generating innovation and piloting a new approach will require research, but full research projects are not eligible. And they would like to hear your take on it. I'll just repeat their statement. Basically, it's more of a statement that they have. And in case Jana or Berit has a comment to it, then you can come in. And their statement is generating innovation and piloting a new approach will require research, but full research projects are not eligible. Is that so?
Yes, that's how it is. We can't finance pure research programs, but what we need is an innovative character. So there has to be done research already, or there has to be done some kind of development for something innovative. And that's what you have to transmit now into a project which tries out the innovative character, like a pilot project or a new method on capacity building. That's what we mean by innovation and transfer it into a project implementation character.
Yes.
But maybe Berit wants to add on something here.
I don't think I'm so helpful here, but yeah, it is quite a good question. I mean, research is needed. That's what we see, but we always like research actually lies with another ministry in Germany. So our focus is on climate protection, and what we need, like, you know, to differentiate between the two resources. We really would like to ask you not to focus too much on research, but that there is a research component, I totally agree, and quite a big research component. But maybe it's a question how you frame it, or if you how you explain it.
Yes. Thanks, Berit. Now, moving on from the question, I think I mentioned before, Jana, that we are getting a lot of questions from people who are asking whether they are eligible to apply. And here I have one that I will just read it out to you so that then you can give us your answer. We are a branch office of a UK-based or established conservation charity organization or NGO. Are we eligible as a local implementing organization to partner with a German civil society? I'll just read it once more. We are a branch office of a UK-based conservation charity organization. Are we eligible as a local implementing organization to partner with a German civil society?
That, if I understood the statement correctly, then I would say no, unfortunately, because what I was hearing is that there's a US-based organization and you have like a secretariat or an own office within one of our possible implementing countries. And what the local implementing organization has to be is that they were just registered officially within the implementing country, so not registered within the US. And that's not possible because the US is not an order eligible country to us. So that's why I would say no, because the organization seems to be registered within the US officially, and that's not order eligible.
Thank you, Anna, for your input on this. My next question comes to Berit, and the question is whether IKI prioritizes North-South knowledge exchange over South-South exchange, as North-South exchange is more highlighted in the call, or are they on equal footing?
I would say equal footing. I mean, it is necessarily a north-south, like a north component in there, because we are addressing German NGOs or German civil society, but the exchange should be in every direction, and that is like there's no. It's not another level, or I see it quite even. Jana, you would like to add?
I would just like to sign this statement, because that's what we're trying to aiming for. Yeah.
So
all right.
great.
Yes, Jana, we are back to you now. Now that you're in, we are back to you. And I have a question with regards to the process. Once successful applicants are invited to submit a full proposal by September 2021, how much time will it be scheduled by IKI for the proposal development?
I guess this year we gave, like this year it was a little delayed, so we had to choose case by case between 6 to 8 weeks around. So in this period, you have to submit your full proposal to us.
All right. I have a question, one more to clarify on a term, Jana, and this is a term social innovation. What is the IKI definition of the term social innovation as mentioned in the call guidelines?
I don't remember that we mentioned social innovation, but social innovation probably means in terms of the second funding thematic priority, also like participatory innovation, like how can you pilot a project which combines like climate innovation, climate protection innovation, but also combines the movement within maybe a city or something like that. So that's what we could define as social innovation, but we don't have a clear statement or a clear definition of social innovation, as we don't have a clear definition of innovation either.
If you just allow me to go ahead with yet another question, Jana, with regards to the guidelines, yeah? In the IKI Medium Guide, it has mentioned that investment activities are not funded. On the other hand, it has been mentioned that up to 50% of total budget can be allocated for buying equipment. Could you please clarify?
I can try to at least, yeah.
Yes.
That's a really difficult question, or because like what we try to say is that the outline you're stating out to us and you submit to us has to have a project implementation character. What we don't want to see is that you, like if the overall BMU funding is maximum 800,000 euro, you can't submit an outline to us which has basically 700,000 of innovation of investments, because like then only 100,000 euro of BMU funding is left to actually implement the investment. Like what do you want to do? Like what is the implementation character based on this investment? Of course, you have to do investments and you can do it to up to, I guess, 50% of the overall project expenditures, but we want to see a clear idea of what is the work packages and why do you need an investment for this work package? Like how is the investment included in the implementing of the project, and not why do you need to do this investment and what do you do around of it? Like that is a matter of perspective we have on this question.
I have yet another question. Maybe it's also in the same as in guidelines, you know, and they asked that you mentioned systems thinking and modeling in the call. Will this require to use open source, no cost software tools? Is this a yes or is it a no?
I would say it's a yes. It's something which is eligible to fund. So you just have to explain to us why it is necessary for the implementation of the project again. That's what we won't assess during this first selection stage. Like in the first selection stage, we will have a short overview about the staff expenditures you are planning, the material costs and the investments, but you can add an explanation of what will the investments or materials will be, but you don't even have to. So that's not the level of budget information we are going to check on this stage of the selection procedure.
Yeah, and do bear with me that I will still be on you because we are receiving quite a lot of questions on the procedure and the process. So my next question comes back to you, Jana. On the template concept note includes mentions to indicate transformative character of the project. What is expected from this specific indication? What is an ideal concept note in this case, CN in this case? I'll just say it again. Yeah, the template concept note in the templates, the concept note includes mention to indicate transformative character of the project. What is expected from this specific indication?
I can clearly say that, like we mentioned it, like if your project idea or the project idea could be a chance for transformation in any terms, you can just name it there. But what we don't expect every project outline to be is to have a transformation approach. That's why we changed the wording compared to last year's project, to last year's call. Last year, there was a focus on transformative characters of the project. This year, we have a clear focus on innovative character of the project outlines. But if you add on that the project outline could have a transformative character as well, you can mention it. But that's kind of a plus, but not a necessary need.
Mm. Mm. Thank you so much to both of you. We are almost coming to the end of our session. I would like to remind everyone again, before I give Jana one last question, yeah, that in case you have any burning questions with you, kindly send in through the Q&A icon found at the bottom of your screen. Otherwise, we have just one more question that I would like Jana to answer, which is regards to the process which she has been doing all along. And Jana, the question is, should the partners in implementing countries be civil society actors as well?
Point.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. Should I read it again?
No, it's fine.
Yes.
The local partners can be civil societies as well, but the only formal criteria are that they are registered within the implementing country and that they are a non-profit, that they have a non-profit status. What you also need to address are civil societies within your project outline as target groups. So that's a fine line you have to choose between. Either you can directly choose civil society actors as local implementing partners, but you don't have to. But what you have to do is to mention civil society actors as target groups within your project concept.
Yes, thank you. I would like to really thank everyone for your participations. Your questions have been wonderful, and I especially thank Jana and Berit for availing this time and answering all the questions that we have received so far. In case some of your questions have not been answered, please note that we'll reach out either to you through email. Otherwise, we also have the FAQ document that is available on the IKI website that you can access at a later time. Now we are coming to the end of our seminar. Next slide. Next slide again. And I would really like to let everyone know that all the information that was presented today by Jana and Berit is available on the website, as well as the funding information. We have talked about the FAQ section. Please note that we continually update this FAQ section. Please check on our website now and again for an updated version. All this information is available on the IKI website. This is www.international-climate-initiative.com and not .de. You can also mail us on IKI Secretariat at z-u-g.org. Please note that submissions of the outlines on the IKI platform will run until 24th of May. Please note you can also follow us on Twitter, IKI-BMU, or you can subscribe to our newsletter. All the details are available on the IKI website. Next slide. And before we end this seminar today, I have one more request from you. Kindly take part in the survey that will be shown to you at the end. Your answers and participation are of great importance to us. Thank you. Thank you all for your participation, and we hope to see you in our next seminar. Thank you.